This time we will call the Ravenna City Planning Commission to order. Could you call the roll, please?
Yes. Bill Barber.
Here.
Tim Content.
Here.
Mark Hairston.
Here.
Carmen Lodato. Frank Seaman.
Here.
Jonathan Jennings.
Here.
Josh Smith. Bob Finney.
Here.
We are expecting Carmen to come in just a little bit late, but I'd like a motion to excuse Mr. Smith.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, Josh will be excused. The minutes, you've had an opportunity to see the minutes. And are there any corrections or comments about the minutes from January 30th?
I have one.
Yes.
Yeah, and I don't know, maybe it was the way the agenda was set up. We had Old Business Memorial Library. Then under here, we have one paragraph for read and the rest is not. So as I take a look at that, it looks like there should all be read memorial stuff under there. So I don't know how you can, you know.
But this is not, you're right, like that paragraph
This is
is,
read,
but
yeah,
that's
the rest of
not.
this is not.
I agree with what you're saying.
So
Okay.
it's just
Yeah,
a
then we
formatting thing.
jumped to something else
Yeah,
after
so
that,
it's
you're right.
just a formatting issue.
Okay.
Okay.
Well, we need to amend it then to correct it.
Sure.
I think you should, yeah, just change the format. Yeah, I think so.
Okay.
I'd like to, I'll make a motion that the formatting be changed, so to show that Old Business,
Was
we have Reed
ended.
Memorial Library, and all the rest of it was not Reed Memorial Library, so however she wants to show it.
Okay, I can, yeah, I'll fix that.
Been moved to amend the minutes. Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed? Okay, they stand accepted as amended. Let's see. New business tonight. Rebecca Yakovic of TC Architects and the new tenants of 228 South Sycamore Street, presenting for owner Morgan 228 LLC and the A. Morgan Building Group, requesting site plan approval for 228 South Sycamore Street, and the zoning is C1 in that area. I guess we will let you start. The architect can start by, did you want to make any comments to start with? Okay, if you'd start your presentation then.
I am Rebecca Yakovic with TC Architects. I'm here presenting for the South Sycamore Street property. I'm working with the A. Morgan Building Group and the future tenants of the property to propose new office spaces and a small retail area of the property. We've provided 55 parking spaces within the existing lot, and the drawings have been submitted for plan review as well.
Is the microphone working there, down
I
there?
think so. Can you tap it? Make sure.
Okay. Those of you that have mics at your seats, that the button has to be up to be on. It makes it easier on her when she's doing the minutes if she can hear it. Okay? Basically, this property has been under development, and it's been refurbished, so to speak. That's putting it mildly with that. And Mr. Morgan has been, I know he's looking to move this. I think we have somebody, I'm not quite sure where the ownership is in this tonight. That's one of the questions I have.
Sure. Currently, it's my understanding that Jeff Buck of the A. Morgan Building Company currently owns it, and they're in process of selling it once we get permitting and the construction is complete to
Okay. All right. Bob, do you have anything?
A quick question. So there's 2 stories. The
Correct.
plans that you've submitted, is this for the Sycamore side or the bottom end?
the bottom end. It's for the lowest level of the building
Okay.
currently. The Sycamore side will remain unoccupied at the time, but are proposing to put full sprinkler system in because it is unoccupied. There is future development planned for the upper level.
Could you tell us the intended use of the property? Office space or basically,
Yes, the majority of that lowest level is office space for the future tenant. There is a small retail area, kind of, if you're looking at the back of the building, the far left-hand side, that suite there will have some small retail component to it, but the majority of it is staff use, offices, and that kind of thing.
how many employees will occupy the space? Or is it intended?
I'll let Matt answer that question for you.
Sure. Hi, my name's Matt Farrell. I own Buckeye Residential Solutions. I know a few of you. So our office space there should occupy 25 to 30 people working on a daily basis. But we have close to around 200 employees that will come and go, but they all work in the field. So probably be around 25 or 30 on a day-to-day basis.
What type of retail are you visioning for the small section?
Sure, so right now, one of my other businesses is called Battlegrounds Game Center. We do board games and card games and role-playing games like Dungeons and Dragons, and we are going to move that into the new building.
How many parking spaces are you gonna have for that?
We say 55
There are 55.
55? Is that gonna be a paved lot
eventually.
eventually?
So currently, and I'll step up real quick. So currently we have paved with concrete or proposed paving of concrete for the dumpster pad as well as the handicap accessible spaces. The rest will be striped gravel until they can raise the funds to pave the entire lot.
Go ahead.
I'm just asking a clarifying question. So you are the person that's interested in buying this once it's done? Or you're
Yes.
there, okay. I was,
Yeah, we're actually already going through the financing process and everything, so getting our ducks in order, so we are gonna buy this.
so once, Battleground moves in and Buckeye's already there?
No,
No?
there is, the building is currently unoccupied.
Okay, so once those spaces are filled, is there gonna be additional office space, or is it all for all things you're using?
So all the office space we're putting in is gonna be for our use.
Okay,
We have plans to eventually develop the rest of the building, and office space is something we've been kicking around, but we haven't made any decisions yet.
There is access to the lot from Maine. Do you anticipate using that right away or just all traffic from Sycamore?
No, we anticipate using it for Maine.
Or not Sycamore,
Yeah.
Spruce?
Yeah.
Yep.
So we're not looking at the whole project, just that bottom part.
Correct, just, yes,
Okay.
just, yes. Site lighting, will your parking lot be lit up?
So currently, the drawings that we proposed, the site lighting is from the building. So there are going to be lights on the face of the building in order to illuminate that parking lot area.
What would your operation hours of operation generally be?
So for Buckeye Residential, we'd probably be 8 AM to 5 PM, Monday through Friday. And the retail space would be evenings and weekends.
Okay. Are you able to tell us what the retail space would potentially be?
Yeah, I actually mentioned it a few minutes ago.
Oh, I'm sorry.
That's okay.
I'm sorry.
I'll,
That's what I was getting at.
So I own another business, which is already a retail store. It's called Battleground
Oh,
Game Center.
so that's what you're
Yep,
referring to
That's what we're
as
gonna
your,
move into. Yep.
That's what I was getting
Retail.
confused on, how much
Okay.
is he occupying versus the retail space he mentioned?
okay.
Gotcha. Yeah, so we're gonna occupy everything that we're developing between my businesses.
Okay.
Everything on that lower level.
Mhm. There's gonna be a couple of spots on the lower level still that we can develop into, something if we find tenants for it, which is the plan.
So the two unoccupied spaces on the lower level are the closest to Spruce, those two bays that are there. Those are unoccupied. They have some storage space that they're proposing up along Sycamore and Spruce, kind of up in that corner. Currently, those are storage spaces. Those were built and they have where the water mains come in and that kind of stuff. So those will probably remain that, but there are two storefront corners that are unoccupied at this point, or proposed to be unoccupied until they get tenants for it.
I have another question. So Buckeye, is that the ones where the vans I see that take people? Okay,
Yep, we actually own another building on Main Street here.
right.
126 East Main, and that's our adult daycare program, because we take care of adults with special needs.
Right. I feel like, isn't there a new lunch place in that area too? No. Anyways, so how many of those spaces are you gonna be using any of those spaces for those vans?
Probably not, because we park most of our vans at the day program,
Okay,
so maybe one or two occasionally, but it won't be on a permanent basis.
okay. So by the time people come for the Dungeons and Dragons, then the Buckeye people will have gone for the day?
Correct,
Okay.
yes.
And when you say Buckeye people, that's your staff there that helps coordinate all the trafficking, that's a bad word to use, isn't it?
Yeah,
All the picking up and moving, bringing the people around.
So it'll be all of my administrators.
Okay,
Right? So all of my aides that work in the field don't come to the office but once a quarter for training.
correct.
And then even then, we break it up into manageable chunks, right? Because we don't have the space for 200 people.
Okay.
Well, I applaud your courage. Quite honestly, I was glad to hear that you were interested in that. Mr. Morgan built another building in town with the children's advantages in that building now, and that building was about to collapse and fall in, and he fixed that up, and it's a really nice thing. I think he's done the same thing here, but this is a work in progress, I guess you could say, for the use. What we're considering tonight is what you presented as the bottom level, and the parking area are our concerns. Bob, is there anything else that we haven't covered that we need to talk about?
Just the parking lot, the hard surface, the code states that the parking lot should be hard surfaced, be it concrete or asphalt. In the past, Planning Commission had approved 12 months later, hard surface or some other provisions. Next phase would be required or something of that nature. Planning Commission could decide to required to be hard surfaced during this phase.
So, can I say something? So 12 months would probably not be attainable for us. We're probably looking at the next 3 years before we can completely hard surface, because quotes from asphalt companies are around $400,000 to hard surface the parking lot. And that's not something we're gonna have in our budget for the next couple of years. And if that's gonna be a requirement, it will kill the deal. So,
But what you'll do in the meantime is maintain that parking lot, so it's not,
Absolutely.
doesn't become a dust bowl and it doesn't
Right.
become a eyesore.
we're gonna prepare it for hard surface. We're gonna put drainage in it and rocks, and we'll make it look nice. And of course, the handicap spots and stuff. And our plan is, we will hard surface it eventually.
Right.
It'll probably just take, we're projecting about 3 years.
Or until the price of asphalt drops a lot.
Yeah, right.
So 4 years.
Yeah. Yeah. One other question, what about the signage you're gonna be using there?
So we haven't designed the signage. I understand that we'll have to submit proposed signage for the exterior of the building. At this point in time, we haven't gotten through that process yet.
If you saw the thing there, they're projecting a 7-month period to get this ready to use. Is Mr. Morgan gonna be the contractor on that, do you know?
Yes, yes.
Okay. Well, I don't have a problem giving the game plan. It doesn't hurt that I know you professionally, and you're a man of your word. And I myself do not have a problem with that. We don't want to, it doesn't behoove the city to have that sitting there empty. I was glad to hear that you were interested in it because you're pretty clever and successful. Always seem to do the right thing. That's the history I know of you.
I appreciate that.
That's my comment on where we're at with the site plan. Hey, this is just the beginning. And it's going to be interesting to watch this evolve as far as I'm concerned with that. And it may have some other influence around the city to have it there. So,
I have a question, Mr. Mayor.
yes.
Does Ravenna have like an RLF program to help businesses do just these types of improvements? Like,
We do have RLF funds. Those become available, you can't just go get it
Yeah, I know.
right away. It becomes available. A lot of it has been committed for the past year to the project that's over here, where we tore the old bank down, or the building, the judge's building was the last one that was there.
do you know about off the top of your head how much room there is in that loan fund? Like how much space? I'm just trying to think of ways to help them out to get that.
Well,
expedited.
we work with NDS. They manage those funds.
So I could actually help answer this. So I actually have approached MDS,
Okay,
and they can't lend enough. Like,
oh, but that's,
they-
okay,
yeah, they can, their limits on lending for that are $250,000,
okay,
and they will only gap finance, so we would still have to get a 80% from a bank.
gotcha. That's supposed to be a tool for economic development. That sounds awfully restrictive.
With the RLF funds, they're required to be loans. They can't be grants.
I understand,
Uh,
but they're more favorable you know, with small businesses.
Yeah, well, it's certainly, we can look around to see what we can do with that. There is not a ton of money in that account right now.
Because when I was in Streetsboro, we had the same problem, and then we made a request to the state to increase it, and they did.
I think there is, I have to talk with Mike, but you can also ask to write a grant
Yeah.
that's based on economic development. There might be some other ways to look at it. Mr. West is pretty good about chasing stuff down. Now, he's down in Texas on the beach right now.
He's unavailable.
And he won't be back until next week. But this isn't something that you do in a day anyways, so I'll be glad to look into it. He certainly invested in Ravenna and has his businesses here, and we value that. So if there's things that we can do to help, we want to do that, so.
I assume it was the Morgan Group, but already the paint job, the new gutters, and the new fence are a vast improvement. So even if it doesn't move any further, it's at least an improvement over what we had before.
When do you anticipate construction starting?
I believe Jeff and I talked about April 1st. Because we're looking to hopefully finish and move in by October.
I know we have a set of plans already has been submitted, so, which is, fast tracks it a little bit, which is good.
I had submitted them both at the same time
Mhm.
in hopes that we can get through the process. The office space and that kind of stuff is pretty simple in terms of its HVAC and stuff. The biggest cost factor in the redevelopment of the building is the sprinkler system.
Yeah, it's a lot of money.
No matter where you are. Yeah.
Yes.
We've had the same thing with some of the development up on Chestnut Street.
And this one gets a little sticky because the upper level is unoccupied, so you still have to sprinkle that because it's unoccupied, just in the nature of it being unoccupied.
Yeah.
At least at this point in time, so it makes the redevelopment and future phases a little bit easier, but we have a lot of upfront costs to cover that, those sprinkler lines.
Anybody else on the commission have any more questions or comments? Does anybody in the audience have any questions or comments? Okay, then I guess we're ready. This is approval site plan, and this does not have to have a public hearing. We'll vote on this tonight. Can I get a motion to approve the site plan?
I would move to approve the site plan with a temporary but indefinite waiver of the hard surface.
We have a second?
Second?
Okay, it's been moved and seconded.
Voting. Bill Barber.
Yes.
Tim Content.
Yes.
Carmen Lodato.
Yes.
Frank Seaman.
Yes.
Mark Hairston.
Yes.
Jonathan Jennings.
Yes.
Okay, well, it's the first step,
Thank you very
so,
much.
Thank you.
Good luck.
Thank you.
thank you. We have no other business to come before us tonight. Would entertain a motion to adjourn.
Before we do that,
Yes.
I'd like to know if there was any follow-up about, we had talked last time about the lighting, about the wattage for certain lights for businesses. We were talking about those really bright white lights that some of these, I saw actually, it's Ravenna Township, right, where Walmart is?
Yes.
Okay, but I saw one there with the pot leaf lit up and the windows were boarded with that super, super bright light.
So, Tiffany, didn't you speak to the owner of the car lot, and they turned it down?
Stationary.
I did, yes.
Okay, that's what I thought.
talked to
That
Mr. Pataglia.
That's
and-
not my main concern. My
Right.
main
Yeah,
concern
okay.
is like these vape shops moving in and using those, I
Right.
mean, they're just so ultra distracting. And I thought, you know, we could have some really meaningful and intentional discussion about making a recommendation to council coming from this commission about putting a quantified limit on what the wattage can be. Because you had mentioned that 2,000 was the standard, but these lights are 6,000.
Sure. Yep. Dawn from my office looked into it and was having a difficult time finding other communities that could quantify or could measure. We can measure noise through decibels, standing at a certain part of the property.
Right.
Lighting, from what he told me, he hadn't found how to measure that, how to quantify lighting. So we can continue to look into it and see.
We can't put a restriction on the wattage.
And yes, we could. But if they're LEDs, then they're equivalent wattage, so maybe they could, or only allow a 3K versus 6K or the blue. I mean, yeah, we could, I'm sure, do something like that.
I think we need to do something because this city, more than any other place I've visited in or lived in Portage County, has really gone the extra mile trying to preserve a certain look and character, especially in the historic district. And these are, I feel like planning commissions are in place to make these types of recommendations to further those efforts to protect.
I think
that
there are
character.
council people that want to do it. I've talked to a couple of them, and they are interested in that. I think, in fact, I think council voted that they'd like to put a moratorium on those types of businesses.
The vapes. Vape shops, yeah.
Yeah.
I
So-
think that misses the point a little bit, if it's just on the type of business. I agree with Carmen, I think that, and I suspect that council would be interested in that. It's really, and again, I go back to the Quick Med on
Yeah,
Chestnut and
yeah.
Riddle there, Spruce. Riddle or Spruce, wherever it's at. And, you know, because that's another one, and you get them even when, like the convenience stores. They are just really, you know, I'll call it light pollution. It's really, you know,
Sure.
a bad thing. So I would think that we could find a engineering standard, or have, you know, talk to somebody who's an engineer.
Not an electrical engineer, but
But I probably know some who could help us with that, because I agree that we need to have it in code, what that's gonna be.
I feel like we need to be proactive about this because they're popping up everywhere.
Yes.
And just getting ahead of it, and I feel like council will be more inspired to move to action if they have a recommendation from planning commission to consider.
Well, do we need to have the actual specifications in that, or do we need to have it as a recommendation to consider an ordinance that will?
if you want to enforce it, it needs to be an ordinance.
I understand that, but I'm asking, if we come forward with just the recommendation to develop that ordinance, will that give them a requirement to push the ordinance and try to develop it, or do we have to develop the ordinance?
I would say as a former council person, it makes your job a whole lot easier when that stuff comes prepackaged for you.
Right, so they're going to look at me and ask me to do it.
Well, we're looking at you as well.
Exactly.
I think it would make them feel more comfortable. I always felt comfortable as a council person when I knew that already went through a planning commission and it was debated and beat up there, and then I felt like there was, you know, really not much that needed to be added to it.
We currently have an ordinance, I'm gonna assume, as far as the signs and that. Would this be something that would be incorporated into that same ordinance? Because literally, some of the things you're talking about aren't just lights.
Right.
Some of them are signs that are too bright. So,
So in the historic district, there are wattages listed.
Oh, so
But-
it is quantified.
In the historic district only, specifically in 1458, 14, I think is historic, but that's primarily lights that are uplit signs, floodlights as we used to call them. Things have
Okay.
changed dramatically, but that's easy to look at the bulb and say, hey, it's 300 watt versus 150, let's change that light bulb out, but the LEDs have a whole different halo than an uplight, the old style uplight, you know what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
So there was a point at one time we asked Dairy Queen to turn their sign down and they did. But I don't remember that it was quantified. It was just, they felt it was too bright. So I will look into it. We'll see. There's got to be other communities that have.
Well, if there isn't, we could
Figure
set
it
a precedent.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because I
Yeah.
feel like this is kind of a new thing. I know that these are something that I never even saw anywhere until not even a year ago. So I feel like maybe the reason that these things aren't on the books is because this is a relatively new phenomenon.
Yeah, I think you're right about that.
Yeah, because I mean, I have migraines, I'm a chronic migraine sufferer, and I could tell you right now that when I go down the street and I even see it, it feels like it's burning my cornea. I mean, it's very, it's obnoxious. And then also, the fact that they have a pot leaf lit up like that in their window. I mean, I guess that's the township's issue, but, I mean.
Yeah, that,
I feel like do we have things in our codes that prohibit those things on signs, or are we just asking for, people to just be nice about it and accommodating?
I think we do. I think there is reference to dancing, girls, so to speak, and
Okay,
illegal things, I think.
well, it's not illegal
been a-
anymore,
I'm sorry?
it's pot. So
Our
what
code
I'm
hasn't
saying is,
changed.
given that, and I'm nothing against that, I would support an issue too, but I don't support neon pot leaves being lit up in the city I live in. I feel like that's
So
just not.
Currently,
good look.
it's not legal to sell recreational marijuana in Ravenna because it's not anywhere in our code.
Right,
So planning commission, council has been discussing, my recommendation is wherever it goes, it should be conditionally permitted so planning commission can vet out the business, location, hours of operation, signage, lighting, parking, all of that.
but it doesn't need to be marijuana to have the pot leaf. What they're trying to advertise at those vape shops are like that Delta 8 or whatever, they're like derivatives. But they're putting it up there, and I just feel like it's better for the city overall that you have something written, like you said, an enforceable ordinance, because these things are coming,
Absolutely.
and it's better to be proactive than reactive, considering how slow the legislative process moves on any level of government.
Yeah. And the sign code is chapter 14, and I don't have chapter 14 with me, I just have chapter 12.
Can
But
we
I
put
can-
this on the agenda for next month?
sure.
And do you think by then you could have
I'll try.
an ordinance recommendation for us to consider?
I will certainly try, sure,
Okay.
yeah.
would there be a need to talk with Mr. Semino? Because
We would consult with him,
Yeah.
for sure. He's part of the process.
before we write an ordinance restricting what they can do in their business,
Right.
we need to make sure that we're not crossing the line ourselves.
Well, we got a month for a meeting, so.
Well, because they are so new, it's kind of fertile ground for them. And they're not stupid either. They know if they get in ahead of you,
They can be grandfathered in.
yeah. So it's not something we want to set on for a period of time if we want it to work. So,
I feel like by next month, that's plenty of time, because we talked about it last month. So that would be like a full 60 days of researching
Yeah.
and coming up with something, and knowing that whatever's presented might still need to be fine-tuned, but I don't wanna come back in 30 days and we're having the same conversation we're having now.
On the other hand, if there's not a way to measure it, you can't really have an enforceable provision.
Well, then, there's gotta be some way.
Well, we'll go ahead and talk to, at the committee meetings, we can present that to council, to get it on their mind. Most of them have it on their mind already. That's not a problem. So. Anything else?
So do we need to vote on that to put that on the agenda, or do you just do that?
I can do that.
Okay.
City council hired Portage County Regional Planning to put a comprehensive plan together.
Yes.
And the comprehensive plan, part of the comprehensive plan is a survey. So you guys will all be sent the survey and asked to complete the survey and return it. There'll be instructions on how to do all that. I think in the next week, you should be able to see it through email.
I feel like I got a survey. Did you guys
There
get
was
it?
a link, I think.
I did, because I filled out a survey, but was that
I
from,
think
was that it?
Yes,
pushed them
that
in
was
after
it.
the
Okay.
meeting. Yeah, I think there was a link that Julie sent to everybody, and then I just forwarded to all of you.
Right,
Okay.
I was gonna say, I already
But-
took
Yeah.
that
But
survey.
was that design review, or was that,
Planning Commission.
that was the planning commission?
Well, just to
Or
clarify,
Planning,
that's
regional
great
planning.
that we have the survey, but I really feel like, I don't want this to be kicking the can down the road. Like, let's just wait for it to be part of the comprehensive plan conversation.
The lighting you're talking about?
Yes.
I agree with you.
Yeah.
I agree.
Well, let's all do some research.
Oh, I will, I love research. I don't sleep. I gotta find something to do at night.
I wish they'd make a flashlight that had provided that kind of light.
Yeah,
To tell you the truth.
you could see the dark spots on the moon with it.
Yeah. Anything else? All right, can we have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second?
I'll second.
We are adjourned. All in favor? Say aye.
Bye.
Anybody opposed? Okay, thank you. Thank you.